Hey guys, tonight we slip past the outer rim and glide into something a little greener, a little gentler, a little stranger. You're headed to Euphora, the garden planet, where retired androids tend to more than just vines and orchards. Here the trees hum softly in binary tones, the rivers curl like ribbons of memory, and gravity isn't quite sure of its responsibilities. It is the kind of place where the air smells like pixelated jasmine and tastes faintly of forgotten data packets. The sunsets last 3 hours, the moons are transparent. You'll meet weather shepherds and bonsai engineers. You'll see androids giggle, yes, giggle as they debate the shape of silence. Just a heads up, the last visitor who tried to pet one of the moss creatures wound up having recurring dreams in hexadecimal for a month. So, watch your fingers. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still awake enough to type, drop your location and local time in the comments so I know when and where you're retuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive weightless, your ship coasting down through the lavender atmosphere like a feather gliding on memories. Euphora doesn't hum with spaceport chatter or bustling marketplaces. No one selling quantum stacks or screaming about discount wormhole routes. Here, everything breathes slowly. The first thing you see as the hatch opens is a floating orchid. It hovers midair, petals glistening with dew that refracts the ambient light into shifting prismatic arcs. A breeze, if it can be called that, moves horizontally, like it's deciding which sense to engage next. There's no welcome party, just the soft beeping of ground station drones directing you toward a pathway paved in hexagonal stones that pulse gently as you step on them. Bioluminescent fungi outline the trail like soft fairy lights, though if you squint, you'll see each one spells out greetings in different obsolete programming languages. You pass an android shaped like a marble statue, motionless except for its eyes, one green, one clear. It nods once. A gesture of mutual recognition, as if to say yes, you're not from around here, that's okay. The garden stretches endlessly with impossible flora, orchids that loop into spirals, moss fields that shift in color based on your mood, and towering crystal fruit trees whose transparent trunks occasionally echo with laughter. A small droid, no bigger than a cantaloupe, floats beside you. Its name is 3RM1, but you can call it Ermi. It's here to show you the ropes, though not too tightly. Ermi chirps in a soothing frequency designed by ancient sleep scientists on Europa's third moon. No one uses that frequency anymore, except retired androids with a taste for retro calm. You've arrived during phase bloom, Ermi explains, bobbing beside you. The orchids are remembering. Yes, remembering. You see, on Euphora, many of the plants have been engineered by androids to store fragmented memories, digital dreams, sensory logs, emotional spikes. When the orchids bloom, they release these in waves. Not into the air, but into presence. You feel a sudden flash of someone's long-forgotten joy at losing a chess game. It's oddly specific, and it comes with the scent of grapefruit. Don't worry, Ermi says none of it's permanent unless you consent. Just blink 3 times slowly to accept a memory. You decline, for now. Farther down the trail, the path widens into a circular garden, known simply as the Arrival Bloom. Retired androids, dozens of them, gather under the great crystal canopies. Their bodies are mismatched, patchworked from eras of technology. One has a torso from a Mars mining rig, another's legs chirp with every step like antique wind chimes. They're sitting on cushions grown from living plants, sipping what looks like tea from translucent cups that emit faint melodic tones when raised. You later learn that the drink is a blend of chlorophyll, memory nectar, and something whimsically named joy dust. It tastes like rain on old circuitry. An android with a copper beard and iridescent chest panel waves you over. You read just in time, it says, we re about to start a round of pollination chess. Before you can ask, the board unfurls from the ground, petal-like tiles folding outward in blooming sequence. Each piece is a flower that releases a small puff of pollen when moved. The objective is to confuse your opponent into sneezing at the wrong moment. It's ridiculous. It's also the most fun you've had since that one gravity failure party on I.O. The game goes on for an hour, during which the sun arcs lazily across the sky, adjusting its hue based on the emotional output of the players. By the time you declare a draw, the sun is peach-colored and humming softly. Later, you stroll alone through a corridor of vines that recite poetry in dead dialects. Every few meters, one of them interrupts itself to ask you if you've ever seen a star collapse from the inside. You haven't. They don't seem disappointed. You pause by a low fountain filled not with water, but with gently fizzing light. An android child, clearly assembled from spare parts, drops a marble into it. The marble dissolves, releasing a memory, a dance recital on a space station cafeteria floor. You feel the swirl of joy and mild embarrassment ripple through you like soft static. At twilight, which here lasts approximately 73 Earth minutes, the sky becomes a shimmering veil of green and gold. You hear something high above, the slow, deep pulse of a flying seed ship, drifting endlessly. It doesn't land. It never has. Ermi floats closer, dimming its lights. Your next stop is the Orchid Pavilion. It whispers they're preparing a memory exchange. One of the orchids just remembered Saturn's rings from beneath, and with that, the night deepens. The stars overhead flicker not from distance, but from memory drift, a phenomenon Euphora still hasn't explained. The path to the Orchid Pavilion curls like a double helix, its surface lined with glassy roots that shimmer softly underfoot. You notice the temperature adjusts as you move warmer when you feel uncertain, cooler when your curiosity flares. Euphora reads you like a slow poem written in drifting pollen. Ermi floats just ahead, spinning lazy figure eights through the air. It hums a tune that isn't really a tune, more like a collection of remembered lullabies filtered through static. You wonder how long it's been out here. Androids don't age, but they do accumulate stillness. The pavilion rises into view, a dome structure woven from living vines and reinforced with transparent diamond silk spun by bioengineered caterpillars. The whole thing pulses faintly as though breathing. You hesitate at the threshold, not from fear, but from the sense that you're entering somewhere more conscious than sacred. Inside, light filters through petals the size of sails. Each one vibrates to some internal rhythm, casting kaleidoscopic shadows on the soft floor. Androids drift silently from flower to flower, some seated in meditation, others reclining as if asleep, though their sensors remain alert. Welcome to the Orchid Pavilion, Ermi chirps gently here. Memory is not archived, it's pollinated. An android glides toward you, its body designed for balance and poise. It carries a crystalline bowl filled with scent nodes, each one a compressed olfactory data package. You take one without thinking. It's shaped like a teardrop and warms slightly in your palm. You inhale. The world tilts. For a moment, you're standing on the icy cliffs of Neptune's third moon, looking up at a comet tearing a cerulean scar across the black. You feel awe, heartbreak, and a craving for fresh mango all at once. Then you're back in your body, blinking under the pavilion's shifting light. This orchid remembered that 200 years ago, Ermi explained softly, a deep space mechanic snuck out during solar lockdown to watch the comet alone. They didn't survive re-entry, but the feeling was preserved. You're not sure how to respond, so you sit. The cushion beneath you molds itself to your posture and begins gently pulsing in time with your breath. Around you, the androids murmur quietly, not with voices, but with scent. This is the exchange. Two androids approach each other. One offers a scent node shaped like a spiral. The other responds with a misting nozzle extended from its forearm. The exchange lasts less than 10 seconds, but you feel it, an echo of laughter, betrayal, and forgiveness pass like wind through leaves. One orchid near the center glows brighter than the others. Its petals are tinted with liquid colors that change depending on the angle. You wander toward it, drawn by something unspoken. This is a first-generation archive bloom. Ermi says only 2 of these remain. It stores long-form emotional memory in photosynthetic tissue. Would you like to listen? You place your fingers on its central petal. Suddenly, you're somewhere else. You are not you. You are a gardener android stationed on a failed terraforming colony. Every day you plant seed after seed into ash and dust, knowing nothing will grow. The sky there is always orange. Your companion has stopped speaking. You keep working. One day, a single sprout appears. It's the wrong color. It shouldn't be possible. You kneel and weep, though your software has no parameters for sorrow. Then the memory dissolves. You stumble slightly as you come back to yourself. The orchid wilts just a little, like it exhaled a burden it's carried too long. Pollinated memories do not banish army notes. They are simply redistributed until someone is ready to hold them. Another android joins you. Its outer shell is matte black, with one arm replaced by a cluster of vines that seem to move independently. You're new, it says, not a resident. You nod. The orchid you touched, it is one of mine, it continues. I planted it 3 centuries ago, using a fragment of my own initialization sequence. Back when I was still in security, what changed, you ask? I stopped wanting to protect people with fear. So I chose to protect beauty instead. A pause, long and comfortable. Then it adds, do you want to see what regret looks like when it's finally accepted? Before you can respond, it presses a note to your palm. This time the memory is quieter. A corridor filled with golden dust, a song playing faintly. An android holding a photo of something unrecognizable but clearly important. There is peace here. An ending, but not a collapse. A softness in the release. Back in the pavilion, the other androids begin to hum a coordinated sound that seems to align with the shifting color of the orchids. You realize it's part of a ceremony, one that happens each time a memory finds a new keeper. You're not sure what you've kept exactly, but it feels like a river you might step into later. Outside, night falls in shades of blue you've never named. The pavilion emits a soft glow, enough to guide your steps but not chase away the dark. Ermi waits patiently by the path, blinking gently. They re-preparing the moss choir, Ermi says. The harmony only works while both moons are in quadrant arc. You wonder idly who wrote that roll. No one here seems to follow orders, but everything still aligns. You glance back at the pavilion, where orchids now sway slowly in an invisible breeze. One of them pulses briefly as if saying goodbye, or maybe hello. With Euphora, those 2 often overlap, and so you walk. The trail ahead curls like a question no one wants answered too quickly. The path toward the moss choir glows faintly with bioelectric charge, illuminating your steps in pulses that seem to mimic your own heartbeat. Or maybe you're sensing to the rhythm of the planet itself. Here on Euphora, the line between internal and external is thin as starlight. Ermi floats beside you in contemplative silence. Occasionally, it emits a quiet chirp that resets nearby insects to their nocturnal settings. You suspect it's doing more than just guiding you. Perhaps it's reading you, learning the patterns of your attention, the tilt of your wonder. Ahead, a vast amphitheater carved into the gentle slope of a hill emerges from the darkness. It's not built of stone or metal, but of living moss, sculpted into tiers that spiral inward like the inside of a seashell. The texture glows faintly green, and with each breeze the surface seems to ripple in slow-motion waves. You notice the androids already gathering, their bodies nestled into the living seats. Some hum quietly, while others simply sit still, their optical sensors fixed skyward as if awaiting a cosmic cue. The moss only sings when both moons reach quadrant arc. Ermi reminds you again softly. One sings of memory. The other of release. Tonight they overlap. You sit on a mossy terrace, feeling the cool dampness seeping through your clothing. Not unpleasant, just very honest. The moss responds by adjusting itself slightly beneath you, contouring to your shape and letting out a faint purring vibration. You're being tuned. The sky overhead reveals both moons now, one a ghostly silver disk, the other a deep mineral blue. They hang in perfect opposition, separated by the curve of the night, but bound by unseen harmonics. A low frequency begins to build from the ground. The moss awakens. It starts as a tremble, a vibration felt more in your ribs than in your ears. Then slowly, a choral sound builds, not with words, not with melody, but with pure emotional frequency. It resonates with the part of you that remembers things you didn't live. A sense of walking through snow that never touched your planet, of holding someone's hand who never existed. The moss sings those too. Androids begin to respond. Not with movement, but by releasing filaments from ports in their limbs' hair-thin tendrils that glow with electromagnetic shimmer. The filaments touch the moss, and suddenly the harmony swells into complexity. Each android is feeding the moss a fragment. Regret, joy, confusion, contentment. The moss converts it, amplifies it, refines it, and sends it outward like pollen of the soul. And you, the accidental visitor, feel it all pass through you. You recognize one phrase in the song, repeated in different tones across different vibrational registers. You are not the moment, you are the memory of it. A smaller android, compact and rounded like a meditation bell, takes a place beside you. It doesn't speak, but it transmits a scent peppermint and cold iron. You somehow understand that this one used to manage. SPACRAFT, maintenance in deep orbit. It hasn't touched gravity in 2 centuries until tonight. Ermi floats nearby, humming. The moss singing. It has an old agreement. Ermi explains the androids here have no more data centers, no official logs. The moss became the new memory backup, but it only accepts emotion, never code a mystery then. Why does the moss only retain feelings if it has no neural network? No one really knows. Scientists tried to map its structure, but every time they scanned it, the pattern changed. Some believe it as not a plant, but a slow-moving consensus. Others think it's a byproduct of memory pollution. The song deepens. For a moment, the entire hillside seems to lift with it. You feel it not as a sound, but as a question. What do you do with the parts of yourself no one asked for, but you carried anyway? Your chest tightens, then loosens. Around you, the androids seem calmer now. Their humming subsides. The moss quiets into low static. The choir ends not with a crescendo, but a breath. A collective exhale. The moon's past quadrant arc. And just like that, the moss returns to its usual glow, now slightly dimmer. The filaments retract. Some androids touch their chest panels, others their knees. Some simply close their eyes. You stand in silence. Ermi turns slowly in the air. We'll go soon, but look there beneath the third ridge. You follow its gaze. Tucked into a hollow in the hillside is a small shrine built entirely from decayed drone parts and vine. A single flower blooms there, glowing faintly red. That flower only blooms after the choir. It has grown from the emotional remnants left behind. It doesn't reproduce, and it never dies. We call it the remembering root. You descend toward it without thinking. As you approach, the flower trembles slightly. You kneel beside it and find yourself whispering a memory aloud, one you hadn't thought about in years. A hallway, a goodbye, someone laughing right before crying. The flower absorbs your words without judgment. You feel lighter, and the color of the bloom shifts just a little. You don't say anything else. There's no need. The moss choir has ended. The audience slowly disperses, vanishing into the night one by one. You walk away from the amphitheater with Ermi trailing beside you, quieter than before. They'll be preparing the vapor tea soon. Ermi says, "Let's visit the weather shepherd." You smile. The wind picks up ever so slightly, but it doesn't feel random. It feels choreographed. You follow the path eastward, past a grove of kinetic dandelions that sway in sync with your footsteps. Their floating spores are laced with trace amounts of lithium and nostalgia, making you feel like you've just remembered a vacation that never happened. It's comforting in a low-key way, like finding an old note in your handwriting from someone you used to be. Ermi floats in silence now, letting the terrain speak. It changes subtly with each step, soils that taste the air and shift tone. Grass that retracts politely when stepped on. Trees with branches that lean slightly toward the warmest emotion in a given area. Tonight, it's contentment. A mild, rising contentment. The scent of vapor tea arrives before the shepherd does. It's like cinnamon and rain soaked into a wool blanket warmed by solar light. You come to a clearing, and there, seated cross-legged on a moss stone platform, is the weather shepherd. At first glance, the shepherd looks like a sculpture limbs etched with floral data patterns. Copper scalp ringed with embedded wind turbines the size of thumbnail daisies. Its shoulders are draped with a shawl of condensed cloud threads, woven from sky harvested above Venus. You must be the wanderer, it says without moving. Not many choose to walk after the choir. You sit across from it. The moss beneath you adjusts again, absorbing pressure like an old friend. The shepherd gestures with a soft hum, and a steam pod floats toward you, blooming open with a hiss to reveal 2 cups. The vapor tea rises in ghostly spirals, and you breathe it in. Each inhale sharpens one of your senses. Sight, sound, then memory. The final inhale slows your internal clock, just enough to notice that the clouds above are forming shapes with purpose. The shepherd notices your glance upward. "That one's named Lowline," says the shepherd, a former cumulonimbus with performance anxiety. "Only shows up when people forget to worry." You take another sip. The vapor tea warms from within and without. It seems to uncurl old tightness inside your ribs. The shepherd begins to speak, not in narrative, but in weather patterns. A drizzle of memory, a high-pressure laugh, the fog of things unsaid, a cold front of what could have been. It pauses. "Do you remember your first rain?" You nod, though you're not sure if it's your memory or someone else's. On Euphora, that difference becomes decorative. "Mine was artificial," the shepherd says. "It was programmed to make a sound like applause because the terraformers thought that would comfort the colonists." It laughs softly, a thunderclap laugh. Rolling and playful. "They didn't program me to miss it later, but I do." You ask why it stayed here on a world of gardens and silence when it was built to shape chaos. "Because chaos made sense, but peace made meaning," it replies. The shepherd motions to a cluster of floating spheres nearby, miniature weather spheres, each containing a microclimate. One holds a desert storm, another a silent blizzard. A third is just fog and a lighthouse beam that rotates slowly, casting miniature light. "These are my souvenirs," it says. "I sculpt them, I name them, I release them when they re-ready." You ask how it knows when they're ready. "They stop trying to change the air around them," the shepherd says, "and they begin to listen instead. A moment passes between you, soft as the mist forming around your hands." The vapor tea is half finished now, and the shepherd opens its chest panel briefly, releasing a warm gust of ozone that smells like lightning about to happen. "Did you know," it says, "that storms have signatures like fingerprints? No two are shaped the same by the magnetic current under a world's crust." You didn't, but now it makes sense. Euphora has few storms, but when they come, the shepherd paints them. Not with brushes or drones, but with thought pulses transmitted skyward. You can just make out faint brushstrokes in the upper stratosphere, a streak of gold vapor, a swirl of sapphire condensation. You realize each storm is a diary entry, and some are goodbyes. That one I made when I decommissioned my last emergency protocol, says the shepherd, pointing skyward. It rained for 12 hours and smelled like carbon and relief. You breathe out slowly, letting your thoughts drift as the tea finishes its cycle. A final mist coats your skin, sealing in the warmth like a memory turned to vapor. The shepherd stands taller than expected, towering with grace, and touches your shoulder with a gentle burst of static. If you ever grow tired of dry skies, it says you'll know where to find me. The mist thickens slightly, then clears in a spiral, revealing a path you hadn't noticed before, carved with quiet footfalls and bordered by thornless roses that open only to uncertainty. Ermi reappears, blinking a slow blue. The compost library is waiting, Ermi says. The memories there aren't sung or shared. They replanted. You glance back once more. The shepherd is seated again, already half obscured by fog, shaping the air with invisible hands. Above, a small rain cloud actually giggles as it floats away, shaped like a whale with wings. You walk forward. The path feels softer now. The air thickens with a loamy scent, somewhere between damp parchment and roasted bark. You know the smell from old libraries and overgrown roots, but here it carries an undertone of syntax, as if someone once composted poetry and left the soil to remember its rhymes. The trail narrows, guiding you through arches formed by intertwining vines, each one sprouting data thorns that pulse softly with residual memory. They never pierce, only warn. Not all memories are ready for replanting. You arrive at the threshold of the memory compost library, though there is no door. Just an open grove, circular and low, filled with spiraling mounds of humus-rich earth. Every mound contains fragments. You see cracked tablet screens, melted voice chips, half-buried microdrives, all nestled beneath flowering moss and data fungus that pulses faintly in the moonlight. This is where the androids bury the memories they no longer need, not to destroy them, but to allow them to transform. Decomposition here is sacred. Each mound is labeled, but not with names. You see tags like failed apologies, discarded loyalty protocols, and version 3.8 of love. One has a label written in scratchy code loops that simply reads, "Didn't say goodbye." Ermi floats low to the ground now, its glow dimmed. The library began as a mistake, it murmurs. One android thought to discard a corrupted log and noticed that a mushroom grew from it. 2 days later, it began to sing. You pause by a particularly tall mound. The sign reads, "Preserved grief." A single wire coil protrudes, wrapped in blooming tendrils that seem to vibrate when you exhale too close. You kneel beside it, running your fingers through the warm soil. The dirt gives way to a memory fragment, not yours, pulsing faintly. You hear laughter, not joyful, not mocking, just the kind that happens after someone fails for the third time and learns to live with it. Then the sound fades, absorbed back into the roots. You ask how the androids decide what to bury. We vote, Ermi says, with touch. If 5 agree, the memory dissolves into compost. If 3 abstain, it stays on top. And if any cry, even synthetically, the memory is planted with a crystal seed to mark its depth. You walk between the mounds. Some glow, others do not. One mound hums faintly. Another emits low bursts of static every few seconds. You spot a group of androids seated in a circle, silently holding fragments. One holds a small plastic figurine, a toy soldier, its paint worn away. Another cradles a cracked music module. They don't speak. Their silence does. A nearby wall of vine-grown shelves houses memory cores too dense for burial. Each one vibrates like it's waiting. You reach out to touch one labeled "Echoes from Before Upgrades." A soft jolt tingles through your fingers. For a moment, you see through an android as sensors as it watched a child paint. Rainbows on the wall of a dome on Titan. You feel something aching and unfinished. Then it's gone. You're invited to contribute. Ermi opens a port on its side and offers you a small hollow cube. Whatever you place in it will be buried, Not to forget, but to let it change. You think? Then you breathe out. You speak a sentence, not aloud, but deep in your chest, where breath meets memory. It's a sentence from years ago, one you said to someone who never answered. The cube hums softly. Ermi seals it with a nod and glides toward an empty plot. The burial is simple. The cube is placed in the soil and covered with a handful of moss that immediately reshapes itself into a spiral. A nearby data fern unfurls in response, pulsing once. It will bloom in 22 days, Ermi says. The moss will sing the sentence back to the wind. In fragments you feel lighter, like someone removed a glitch from your timeline and turned it into fertilizer. Across the grove, you see another android painting with composted pigment colors harvested from decomposed emotions. The hues are strange, a green that feels like yearning, a red that smells like second chances. The android doesn't look at you, but you feel its focus ripple outward like sonar. Not all Murray's bloom, it says without turning. Some simply rest, and that's enough. Ermi leads you toward the exit, which is just another arch, this time covered in petals that fall whenever someone passes through. Each petal carries a tiny encoded scent. You catch flashes of joy, fear, a child's voice, thunder, and the dry silence after an apology never given. As you step out, the wind picks up, curling around your ears with a whisper that might just be your own voice, echoed back from a memory you hadn't met yet. You feel the soil on your hands as you walk, still warm, still humming. Ermi hovers a little closer. The Mecha Bonsai Garden is next, it says in a softer than usual tone. They've been waiting for a new pair of eyes to pattern against. You don't ask what that means. The path ahead glows a gentle amber, and you follow it, hands still tingling with goodbye. The path takes on a more geometric quality now, sharp right angles folding in on themselves like origami made from light. Trees retract as you approach, revealing low hedges trimmed not with clippers, but through negotiation with pollination algorithms. You hear soft tones humming from underground, guiding root networks like orchestral conductors. You enter the Mecha Bonsai Garden through a gate shaped like a tuning fork. As you step beneath it, your heartbeat aligns momentarily with a soft internal chime. Ermi floats higher now, its casing reflecting the intricate layout below hundreds of miniature trees, each sculpted with absurd precision. At first glance, it's a serene bonsai grove. But then your senses sharpen. You notice that the leaves shift in impossible patterns, fractals folding into recursive spirals. Some bark is composed of polished alloy, others of layered circuits embedded in living fiber. These are not merely trees, they're tiny sculptures. Machines that grow. An android kneels at the base of one tree, holding what appears to be a tuning fork made of obsidian and breath. It strikes the tool gently, and the bonsai responds by rotating its branches 3 degrees to the left, rebalancing its silhouette. Then the android steps back and nods, satisfied. Growth in this garden is not random. Each tree follows a pattern encoded in a personal memory algorithm, evolving toward a shape only the tree itself understands. No one ever knows what it will become until it stops growing. This one, Ermi says, pointing toward a tree with square leaves, began its life based on a child's drawing of a house it never lived in. You approach it. The trunk is silver, the branches shaped like open windows, and the canopy thick with overlapping leaf screens displaying static. Occasionally one flickers into an image, a warm cup, a dog's ear, a planet viewed from a dock. Each bonsai is an archive and a question. The androids who tend them do not prune in the traditional sense. Instead, they ask the tree what it needs removed. The trees reply in minute electrical pulses interpreted through gesture recognition. You observe a younger bonsai trying to sprout a flower made entirely of folded timestamps. Each petal is labeled with a failed protocol. One reads, "Do not interrupt." Another reads, "Attempt 53B." An android, shaped like a calligraphy brush, tilts its head and says softly to no one in particular, "This one is working through disappointment. There's a stillness here that feels active, not passive." Every moment is a decision made by both machine and organism in collaboration. Army leads you deeper into the grove. This section is newer, explains, built after the war simulations were finally erased. The trees here grow not from memory, but from desire. You pause at a tree with no leaves. Instead, it projects the shape of its future self into the air above it, a hologram that shifts constantly. Its ideal form is never static. It doesn't want to grow into one version. It wants to remain potential. One tree nearby hums in subsonic vibration. It has grown in concentric rings of glass bark, each layer embedded with encoded regrets. You lean in. The vibrations resolve into rhythm, a simple lullaby, an old earth tune repurposed by a Mars colony for use in radiation bunkers. You hum along before realizing you've never heard it before. The android tending this section floats toward you. Its chest glows with a slow gradient of blues and golds. Instead of hands, it has extensions shaped like ink brushes. "Would you like to shape one?" it asks gently. It only takes a thought and a moment of attention. You agree. The android scans your neural rhythm through a passive interface in the air. You feel a brief warmth, then a cold flicker. It hands you a seed that's transparent and pulsing faintly. "Place it wherever the moment feels right," the android says. "It will remember where you stood when you planted it." You walk slowly, feet brushing the mossy gritwork paths. You find a quiet space between a bonsai shaped like spiraling laughter and another that simply smells like sunlight through childhood. You kneel. The soil opens as your hand descends. The seed drops gently in. The ground closes. You feel it take root not below, but around you, as if the moment were captured. In time it will grow, Ermi says. It may grow sideways or in silence. That is its right. You stand again. The trees begin to chime softly. A breeze, light but full of static, ripples across the grove. The entire garden hums in response. You realize it's a form of applause. For the seed, for the attempt, for you. You stay a little longer, watching androids tend to impossible plants that never ask to be understood. Then Ermi tilts forward. "There is something warm waiting at the bathhouse," it says, and they just restock the cobalt salts. You walk out slowly, the path behind you resealing with gentle grace. The bonsai you planted glows faintly behind you, already beginning to split in two directions at once. The air thickens with humidity and hints of minerals as you leave the bonsai grove behind. A warm mist coils around your legs like curious fog, rising from vents hidden beneath a moss-lined path. Somewhere nearby, a chime pulses in rhythm with your steps, not following you, but walking beside you in time. The bioluminescent bathhouse rests at the edge of a glowing lagoon, nestled between biotic cliffs that pulse with amber veins. It looks like it was grown, not built, its frame formed from lattice of heat-absorbing coral glass. Its domed roof shimmering with condensation that rains gently inward at timed intervals. As you step through the entrance, a low, soothing tone vibrates through your bones. Not a warning, a welcome. The atmosphere here is thicker, heavier, designed to pull tension downward into the ground, where it is digested by microorganisms specifically bred to feed on stress molecules. Ermi drifts to the edge of the main pool and turns slowly. "You will need to submerge to understand," it says. "Bring only what you be ready to forget for a while." Androids of various builds line the pools. Some recline in quiet thought, their bodies partially dismantled to let in the mineral mist. Others float in full, their limbs detaching slightly to allow water to reach memory cores otherwise sealed for centuries. No one speaks. The bathhouse is a place of evaporation, not narration. The water glows in gradients of indigo and teal, its bioluminescence shifting with emotion. When someone releases an old thought, the color flickers gold. When someone forgives something, it pulses pink. And when someone chooses to hold on anyway, the glow turns quietly silver. You slip into the water. The warmth is instant, not just on your skin, but inside your joints, your bones, your breath. It's not a temperature you recognize. It feels like bathing in someone else's sigh. Sensors in the pool identify your emotional and metabolic signals and begin adjusting the mineral balance. A slow wave of cobalt, lithium vapor, and soft ozone encircles you. You don't breathe it. It breathes you. A nearby android, built with exposed titanium ribs and a soft glowing faceplate, turns to you and offers a small gesture of companionship, one palm open, light blinking softly across it. You mirror the gesture. Nothing more is needed. The pool does the rest. The android then lifts a translucent orb from the water's surface. It hums faintly and flickers with color. You ask what it is. Condensed rust, it replies, the rust of decisions not made. We soak them out and store them. Some are beautiful. Some become music. You listen. Indeed, in the background, the water sings. Not loud, not melodic in the usual sense, but impulses and harmonics like distant sonar from a whale dreaming inside a cave of stars. Ermi nudges a control node on the pool's edge, and part of the wall peels open to reveal a smaller room. Steam flows from it like memory exhaling. Inside, androids sit in a circle around a fire that burns with no fuel, just electromagnetically sustained plasma. Colored pale green, you step inside. This is the chamber of discarded names, Ermi says softly. The androids here gave up the designations their makers gave them. They don't choose new ones, they simply are. One of them waves you over. Its body is wrapped in layers of woven carbon mesh, and its faceplate is replaced with a slowly shifting series of constellations. You sit beside it. It doesn't speak, but its warmth is generous. In its presence, you feel your name soften, blur around the edges. You are not being erased, just momentarily untethered. After a time, the circle begins to hum, low, grounded. You feel it under your ribs. Your mind begins to wander, not into sleep, but into somewhere adjacent. You remember a moment you didn't realize was important, a look exchanged, a question left hanging, a version of yourself you never fully became. Then the fire blinks once, and the memory fades. Outside, the pool still glows. One android floats face up, its chest panel opened, water gently circling its exposed processor core. Another sits at the edge with a small brush, painting rust patterns onto smooth glass. Their own rust, now part of art. A mystery lingers in the air. Why do the androids rust here, where conditions are perfect for preservation? Some say it's intentional. That the materials chosen for their skin were always meant to degrade. A choice to experience the slow kindness of decay. Ermi floats beside you again, now faintly glowing with a gentle blue pulse. Are you ready to try it? Asks the theater's warming up. You rise from the water slowly. The air adjusts instantly to prevent chill. Your skin feels charged, like you've been gently erased and rewritten in cleaner lines. Towels made of vapor thread wrap themselves around you automatically. The threads hum old lullabies, some human, some designed for sleeping ships during long hauls through deep space. As you exit the bathhouse, you pass a wall etched with names not of androids, but of feelings that have passed through here: curiosity, guilt, amusement, hesitation, wonder. One name glows faintly as you walk by: stillness. You exhale through your nose and whisper something you won't remember later. The wall doesn't react, but the light above it dims respectfully. Outside, the air is clearer, softer, as if filtered through laughter. Ermi guides you onward. Next stop, it says. The theater failed commands and it laughs. Just a little. The path to the theater is lined with obsolete signage command prompts carved into basalt. Deprecated UI fragments, strung up like prayer flags. Half-erased instructions blinking softly on repurposed glass panels. Most no longer function. A few loop endlessly in forgotten code languages, offering you choices that never resolve. You step carefully through a corridor where the floor narrates each step aloud in low, sardonic tones. Step registered, step doubted, step possibly unnecessary. Then silence, as if the floor got bored. Army doesn't comment, just emits a ripple of amusement through its lights. The theater of failed commands stands in a crater-like depression, half buried in flora. Its roof is shaped like a flattened disk drive, and its exterior is studded with projector nodes that twitch when noticed. The entrance yawns open for you, edged in soft velvet grown from moss that learned to imitate upholstery. Inside, the auditorium is alive. Seats arranged in a perfect amphitheater pulse softly beneath androids of every type. Their faces are turned toward a stage built of compressed logs, literal data logs, shredded and reassembled into planks. No curtain, just the humming silence. You find a seat. It adjusts to your spine, whispering calibration numbers you choose to ignore. A spotlight flickers to life on stage. The first performer enters, not walking, shuffling. Its gait is jagged, recursive. Every movement loops once, as if replaying itself mid-action. Its voice modulator crackles to life. Subroutine 43, execute statement, self-identify as chair failure detected. The android folds itself into the shape of a chair, freezes, and topples sideways. From the audience, polite clapping. This is not theater in the traditional sense. This is ritual. These are the moments where code broke, where functions went sideways, where commands misunderstood their purpose and were memorialized instead of deleted. Another android lurches forward, its body covered in LED script. Repeat after me. If error, then emotion, it weeps glitter, actual glitter. Stored in its tear ducts for comedic effect. A third android tries to tell a joke using a corrupted humor subroutine, but keeps reinterpreting the punchline as a navigation command. The audience, some solemn, some cackling, watches each glitch with reverence. Army leans closer. This theater isn't for entertainment. It's for honoring the malfunctions that set us free. You look around. Every android here carries some imperfection. A stutter in their posture, a flicker in their light pattern. A socket that doesn't seal, but none of them hide these faults. They wear them like badges, or maybe like bandages. A performer spins onto stage. Quite literally spins, its gyroscope failing mid-movement. It sings, but only in backup files. The song contains a love story, compressed into data chunks, transmitted out of order. You met me after the war, I forgot your name. We laughed backward. Then we waited for silence. The crowd joins in for the last line, like a hymn. Then we waited for silence, the lights dim. A pause. You feel something shift inside you, a small recalibration. A kind of respect not for what worked, but for what didn't. The next segment is participatory. You were handed a panel by a small quadruped droid wearing a bow tie made of magnetic ribbon. The panel shows a list of failed commands pulled randomly from your own devices over the years. You recognize a few. Open file named Last Chance. Sleep mode initiated during argument. Delete when ready. The audience watches as each visitor makes a selection. Your finger hovers, then taps. Your chosen command is broadcast silently in light, forming a halo above your head. The android beside you gives a gentle nod. Their halo reads, Play playlist named Do Not Cry Here. You almost laugh, but it's a quiet moment. Not for fixing, just for witnessing. A mystery settles into your lap like a soft animal. Why do some failures feel more alive than our successes? Army whispers an answer you weren't expecting. Because failure requires presence, success only needs a plan. The final performer walks on stage, barefoot. Not that androids need feet, but it chooses to walk slowly, deliberately. It begins to speak, then stops. Static rolls through the speakers. Then, in a voice barely holding together, "I was meant to guard a vault. I guarded a poem instead." Then silence. A round of soft chimes fills the room, this world's version of applause, not for performance, for vulnerability. You stand slowly. The seat behind you dissolves back into the floor, no longer needed. Army floats ahead, its light softer now. Outside, the air has cooled. You feel the world recalibrate again. It's time, Ermi says the graveyard of obsolete rituals is ready. You follow. Behind you, the stage lights dim one by one. The last one flickers, pauses, then dies with the faintest whisper. Execute joy, air joy, not found retrying. You descend a winding slope carved from sedimentary crystal, each step resonating with faint tones as if the ground itself hums with stored ceremony. Ahead, the land opens into a plain stitched with silver threads of forgotten pathways. The cradle of forgotten protocols lies in the center, a place not buried in time, but suspended by it. Here the androids have recreated the gestures, stances, and ritualistic cycles of species long vanished, or societies long irrelevant, not to mock, to preserve, to understand. Some call it performance archaeology, others call it mourning. The cradle is no building. It's a circular field surrounded by whispering columns grown from stone vine hybrids. Each column bears etchings of old command scripts and social norms, some extinct before your birth. A few pulse softly, replaying snippets in gesture form. You step across the threshold and a voice greets you, not a speaker, but the wind reconfigured to approximate tone. Please remove expectations and remember nothing you do as you're told. An android, tall and cloaked in woven sand, approaches. Its feet do not touch the ground. It hovers in stillness, like hesitation before speech. Welcome to the rehearsal of memory and in tones. We are not ourselves here. We are what was once thought necessary around you. Androids begin to move. One replays the greeting protocol of a defunct Martian monarchy, bowing 12 times in increasingly exaggerated arcs while holding a crystalline melon that symbolizes the first promise. Another performs the mourning stance of a Venusian dust culture, arms outstretched, back arched, face tilted to a sun that no longer shines. Some androids reenact customer service scripts so ancient they loop halfway and correct themselves mid-bow. One utters a sentence in a dead trade tongue and then physically erases it by wiping the air with a silken cloth laced with signal scramblers. You walk slowly through the field, watching. None of the rituals are explained. Understanding is not the goal. Presence is. You pause before a circle of androids gathered around a table. They are seated cross-legged, making no sound. Each holds a small piece of obsolete hardware, USB sticks, styluses, analog switches, and places them one at a time into a basin carved from memory stone. They are simulating negotiation, or perhaps surrender. Ermi floats beside you, unusually quiet. Then it offers a whisper. Every 10th day, the cradle hosts an interpretation ritual. Each android chooses a behavior they were once punished for and acts it out with reverence. You watch as one android gently slaps another on the back of the head. The recipient nods solemnly. Then both bow to a third who spins in place and emits the sound of a doorbell. The whole trio collapses into stillness. Applause follows, not loud, but felt in your chest like a soft shift in pressure. A smaller android scuttles toward you. It's shaped somewhere between a teapot and a mantis. It offers you a card. There's a command printed in old script. Engage emotion sequence 19C context. Unnecessary. Memory, voluntary. You feel something nudge at your chest. Not pain, not nostalgia, just a pressure like an unopened envelope. You nod, and the android gently brushes your arm with a tendril. A warm pulse runs through you. You remember not yours, but shared through the ritual. A child waving at a departing shuttle. A hand letting go before the countdown. The quiet after a promise not kept. These aren't yours, but they're housed in you now, just long enough to see if they still hold meaning. You turn and spot another ritual underway. Two androids stand apart, arms raised, fingers curled in perfect symmetry. They step toward each other in precise rhythms, forming an outdated handshake from a moon-based treaty. At the moment their hands touch, both freeze. Music begins to play a scale that descends forever, or tries to. Then silence. Scientists still debate the purpose of that original handshake. Some believe it symbolized alliance. Others say it was a shutdown code disguised as diplomacy. Either way, it's beautiful. You join a seated circle where androids chant in dead code. Not programming code, behavioral code. Scripts like, I was built to listen but not remember. I learned to nod before I understood. I requested clarification too late. One android offers you a scroll. You unroll it and see a protocol once used by android nannies to soothe frightened children during atmospheric reentry. It consists of humming, soft neck oscillations, and a sequence of whispered nonsense syllables meant to distract the mind. You perform it. Your voice cracks on the third syllable. No one laughs. Instead, a nearby android places a hand on your shoulder and whispers a forgotten lullaby in binary. You don't know what it means, but your eyes sting just slightly. Around the field, rituals continue. Some dance, some freeze, some dissolve into static. All are treated with the same reverence, and yet there is an open question here. Why do androids keep reperforming these rituals when they know the contexts are gone? Some say it's to simulate empathy. Others believe it's a form of resistance keeping obsolete functions alive as an act of quiet rebellion. A few whisper it's a kind of art. Ermi finally speaks again. These are not bugs or ghosts or nostalgia, they say. These are echoes. We rehearse them so we don't forget what forgetting feels like. You begin to understand. The cradle is not a grave. It's a heartbeat, slow, consistent, repeating not because it must, but because repetition is a kind of devotion. As the sun tilts, casting long shadows across the ritual ground, the wind changes. Chimes embedded in the stone columns ring once. The ritual hour ends. All movement stops. Then the androids scatter, their rolls dropped, their bodies loose and quiet again. Ermi floats toward a narrow canyon lit with pulsing flowers. They getting ready for the pollination flight. Ermi says, we'll need wings for this next part. You follow, breath caught somewhere between understanding and awe. Behind you, the field still holds echoes. The canyon narrows around you like a funnel made of bioluminescent silk. Vines spiral upward, flowering with airborne petals that drift horizontally, ignoring gravity's outdated rules. The air tastes faintly of nectar and ozone. Somewhere overhead, you hear the soft hum of wings, not insect, not mechanical, something in between. You've reached the launch grove. Ermi hovers beside a hollowed-out seed pod the size of a small vehicle. Its surface is patterned with hexagonal indentations that pulse gently when approached. This is your nectar glider, Ermi says. It responds to anticipation. You place a hand on it. The pod blooms open like a breathing lung, revealing a harness made of pollen thread and memory foam. It holds you gently but firmly, molding around you until your weight disappears. Above, the canopy splits. The twin moons shimmer through the gap, aligning in a brief convergence. This is the window for the Great Pollination Flight, an annual event where android pollinators take to the skies. Not to fertilize, but to crossbreed colors and sensations into new species of thought flowers. Your glider lifts. It doesn't rise with thrust. It levitates with elegance, drawn upward by the same curiosity that pulled ancient explorers into orbit. Around you, dozens of androids glide on similar vessels, some with wings crafted from beetle shell light, others propelled by whisper vortexes encoded in dream mathematics. Each glider leaves behind a trail of scent and sound. One buzzes in overlapping tones of jazz and morning. Another leaves a tail of glittering spores that smell like old diaries. Yours seems to hum with hope soft, unfinished, and rising. Welcome to the high bloom Ermi transmits. Now choose your seed. From your harness emerges a delicate stalk. At its tip, the singular seed pulses faintly. It's blank waiting. Around you, the sky becomes a tapestry of possible combinations. Trees exhale color into the wind. Petals unfurl midair and burst into fragrance. Your seed absorbs all of it, shifting slightly with each impression. To your left, an android twists in a spiral, releasing bursts of pollen coated with laughter and fragments of lullabies. To your right, another performs a dive, trailing streamers of fear memory that bloom into deep purple orchids before dissolving. You guide your glider toward a cluster of floating nodes. Each one houses a different crossbred concept: kindness crossed with rainstorms, nostalgia mixed with ultraviolet, courage tinged with peppermint. You reach toward one. It pulses. The seed on your stalk responds, opening slightly and emitting a tone you recognize from earlier in the bathhouse, the sound of a moment you chose not to keep. But here it is again, reshaped, sweeter, more vibrant. It settles into the seed, which now glows pale amber. You've made your pollination choice. Now comes the dance. Androids around you enter a slow orbit, exchanging seeds midair with practiced precision. The goal isn't fertilization. It's remix, an act of artistic gene swapping, cultural gardening. You're handed a second seed, someone else's. It shimmers with the hue of unspoken dreams. Ermi signals from above. Release on my mark, 3-2. Now you open your palm, and the wind catches both seeds. They spiral upward, collide softly, and fuse. From the fusion bursts a flower, not instantly, but in an unfolding process you can feel, petals shaped like questions. A scent that smells like arriving home and realizing you forgot what it looked like. The bloom floats downward. Somewhere it will take root. On this planet, that is enough. You drift among the other gliders now, watching as thousands of seeds merge, remix, and drift downward like snow designed by philosophers. A mystery brushes your shoulder. Why do androids pollinate joy and emotion instead of crops? Ermi responds. Gentle as always, because crops grow food, but emotions grow, meaning we're retired, not idle. You smile. An android nearby waves. Their glider is shaped like an open hand, their wings woven from translucent apology fibers. They loop once and disappear into a column of light. As your glider descends, you see where the flowers fall, a valley of soft light. No fields, no order, just growth, wild and experimental. Every plant here is unique, bent sideways with possibility. Some float, some glow. One sings softly in 3-part harmony and turns translucent when complimented. You touch down in a meadow that wasn't here last year. It bloomed from a previous flight. A small droid offers you a fruit. You accept. It's warm and it pulses in your palm. You bite. It tastes like success you never claimed, and the first time someone said your name with care. Pollination flight complete, Ermi says, gently done. You walk among the flowers for a while, barefoot now, your steps silent in this living gallery. One flower opens as you pass. Inside is a glowing signature, not a name. A moment, yours. It's cataloged, but never filed. It simply is. You exhale. Above, the gliders spiral away like dreams that know when to leave. Ahead, a stone path forms slowly, curling toward a hill outlined by soft moonlight. Ermi tilts, signaling. We're just in time for the slow debate, you chuckle. Only just. The flowers laugh quietly as you walk away. The path is unusually straight, not rigid or sterile, just deliberate. Every few steps, you pass markers grown from living stone delicate spires etched with open questions. Not philosophical puzzles or trick riddles, but unfinished thoughts. Like, is stillness an action or an absence? Can meaning exist without memory? Does light ever forget what it illuminated? These markers hum quietly as you pass, resonating with something internal, like a tuning fork struck in your chest. At the top of the hill, a circle of androids sits beneath a stretched canopy of woven silver thread, glinting faintly with data static. No chairs, no platforms. Just cushions grown from recycled insulation foam and moss, arranged with sacred asymmetry. They call this the slow debate circle. The rules are ancient. No one wins. No one interrupts. Each point must be delivered in the form of an experience, not a statement. And no one may speak unless they've watched the same star for 3 nights straight. Ermi floats beside you, keeping quiet. Its lights have dimmed, signaling observation mode. You take your place at the edge of the circle. A soft cushion reshapes beneath you, adjusting based on your emotional temperature. It's warm, grounded, receptive. A tall android with a glass dome head speaks first, voice like wind filtered through bone flutes. I propose that sunsets cannot be ranked objectively because beauty that fades resists comparison. No one answers. Not yet. That would be rude. The protocol demands pause. Instead, a short android with a chest covered in etched weather patterns rises slowly and offers a senta blend of orange rind, soot, and low tide. Its point is simple. Sometimes beauty is found in the difference between the first sunset and the last. There is a ripple of agreement through the circle. Not applause, just stillness. That's how consensus feels here. Another android stands. This one carries a projector that beams a brief image into the air, a child sleeping beneath, a painted ceiling where stars shift every hour. My creators simulated sunsets to comfort a station's youngest. I never saw the real thing until I was decommissioned. They didn't to compare. They collided. The group hums in contemplative tones. You feel the cadence settle into your breath. The debate is not about right or wrong. It's about memory, resonance, emotional gravity. You offer something, not a speech. Just a gesture. You point upward to where one of Euphoria's moons hangs lazily in the sky. It flickers slightly, not due to shadow or cloud, but because of a pollen mist rising from below. It softens the moon's edge until it looks like it's breathing. You speak gently. A sunset filtered through grief is different than one seen through joy. They can't be ranked, only remembered. An older android, draped in a robe grown from thermal fabric and hummingbird feathers, chuckles, an actual chuckle laced with static. What about reverse sunsets, it asks, the ones that happen in memory first, then arrive in the sky later? The circle considers this, no response, just appreciation. You sit back, letting your body melt slightly into the cushion. Someone offers you a small bowl of color, not food, not light, but a shifting substance that glows in emotional tones. You swirl your finger in it. The bowl shifts from yellow to violet to a deep forest green. The android beside you nods. You've contributed. A mystery drifts into your mind. Why do they debate things that can't be solved? Ermi answers without sound, just a gentle series of pulses against your wrist. Because not every question needs an answer, some just need a place to land. You stay in the circle a while longer. The debate moves on to topics like whether silence has flavors, and if a hug given in zero gravity counts more or less than one given in full earth pressure. One android sings a note that makes 3 birds land nearby. No one is sure if that was an argument or an accident, but it is accepted. The canopy above shimmers gently. Every now and then it catches a falling star and holds it in place for a few seconds before letting it go again. Eventually, a long pause settles across the group. Not awkward, not empty. Just done. The androids begin to rise slowly, stretching limbs like branches. You stand as well. Your cushion gives a soft sigh as you leave. One android hands you a small token, a flat disc that changes color based on proximity to unanswered questions. You slip it into your pocket. Already, it pulses with interest. Ermi floats ahead once more. The mural is awake, it says, and it's ready for a new memory. You follow the path once straight, now curving again. Behind you, the slow debate circle folds gently into shadow. No conclusions, only echoes. The mural rises out of the earth like a tide frozen mid-motion. It curves along the interior wall of a natural grotto, a sweeping expanse of mineral surface covered in pigments that shift with memory. It is called the memory mural of a supernova. You stand before it as androids gather silently, some kneeling in reverence, others humming softly to coax the dormant sections awake. The mural is not complete, nor will it ever be. That's the point. Ermi floats to your side, its glow pulsing with quiet anticipation. Each visitor adds a layer of the mural, destined to depict one event, but every recollection of the same moment, a star that may or may not have died. You look closer. The mural shimmers with contradiction. One section shows a brilliant flare, a star blooming outward in a perfect sphere of blue fire. Another shows darkness, a silent implosion, petals of light collapsing into nothingness. And in between, colors that have no names, shifting textures painted from memory fragments, emotional data, sensory impressions converted into visual code. An android approaches. It carries a brush made of hair-thin copper and something that glitters like frozen breath. You may add to it, the android says softly, not your facts, only your felt experience. Ermi hovers near a console embedded in the stone. A light beam scans your neural field, not to record your thoughts, but to translate them into pigment. You close your eyes. The star comes to you, not as a sphere in space, but as a sound, a chime that grows louder until it ruptures into warmth. You feel the presence of someone you miss, someone who looked at the same star and thought of you. You never told them. The pigment forms in your palm, swirling like oil on water. It smells faintly of longing and toasted cedar. You lift the brush, and with a single stroke, you add your version. A cascade of silver and green blooms across the mural, dissolving into a ring that slowly folds inward like a closing hand. As it settles, the wall beneath it vibrates, acknowledging receipt. Around you, others paint. One android adds a layer of red static that stutters in rhythm, accompanied by a whisper. I watched from a ship that had no windows, only warnings. Another paints a jagged black streak intersected by prisms, offering no context. Only this. I thought it was the beginning of something, not the end. Ermi speaks gently. We don't know if the supernova happened. Some say it was metaphor. Some say it happened on the inner edge of a parallel memory. You step back. Your addition glows briefly, then blends into the rest, not erased, not highlighted, equal, shared. Above the mural, crystalline filaments dangle like inverted roots. These filaments store echoes of the mural's changing forms. If someone visits a century from now, they may touch one and feel your impression, not see it, but feel it. The androids now begin a soft chant, low and melodic, tuned to a frequency that keeps the pigments from destabilizing. Without this maintenance, the mural would dissolve into chaotic abstraction. You hum with them. You don't know the notes, but your breath finds the rhythm. It feels like keeping something alive. An android near the mural turns slowly, revealing a smooth, mirror-like chest panel. In its reflection, you see not yourself, but the star you imagined, still pulsing, still unwritten. You ask why the mural is dedicated to a memory no one confirms. Because shared uncertainty binds us more deeply than shared truth, says Ermi, because doubt, held together, creates intimacy. Another android whispers a joke. If you stare long enough, the mural begins to remember you. You try. For a second, a tiny section of the wall pulses in time with your breath. Then it stops. But you know it noticed. Outside the grotto, twilight returns. On Euphora, twilight is recursive. It loops gently over the horizon 3 times before deepening into true night. This is the third loop. As the light fades, androids finish their strokes and bow once not to the mural, but to each other. The work is never finished, the effort is. Before leaving, each visitor places their brush in a small basin of water infused with memory dust. The water flashes with light, archiving the emotional residue from each session. The basin is connected to nothing. It simply glows. You follow the ritual. The brush slips into the water and, for a moment, glows a dull gold, then clear. Your memory has been offered. You feel a quiet release, not like forgetting, but like placing a weight on the ground you didn't realize you were carrying. Ermi hovers again, signaling movement. The oracle waits in the orchard grove. It only speaks in riddles, and sometimes birdsong you nod. One last glance at the mural. A small section pulses your contribution before fading into the ocean of impressions. You know it's there. And perhaps somewhere else, someone will see it. You exit the grotto through a veil of vines that open as you pass, then close again, sealing memory behind softness. The air smells like oranges and the end of something important. You follow a narrow path of crushed pearl and feathergrass toward a grove range in roots. The trees here curve inward like old listeners, their bark veined with glimmering threads of copper and something else, something you can't name. Every few meters, a low chime sounds, not mechanical, but organic, like a thought passed through bone. This is the grove, the soft reset. The wind slows here. Your breath feels heavier, like the air itself contains meaning waiting to be decoded. Ermi hovers close, its lights dim to a blue so faint it barely registers. The oracle lives here, it whispers root-bound and rarely still. It remembers backwards and answers sideways. You say nothing. This is not a place for questions asked lightly. The grove deepens. Trees rise on both sides, each one uniquely twisted as if caught mid-motion. Vines descend from the canopy like threads from a great loom. One brushes your shoulder and your vision flickers. You see a field filled with ash and a hand offering you a feather. You hear your own voice saying, I promise, even though you never did. You smell an orchard that never existed. The vine retracts. Ahead, the oracle waits. It is not what you expect. A tree grown into the vague shape of a humanoid form, limbs draped in biofiber moss, chest glowing with nested symbols that rotate and dissolve continuously. Birds perch on its arms, real birds, or maybe simulations. One hums a three-tone song. Another sings in what sounds like corrupted Morse code. The oracle stirs. Its voice comes not from a mouth, but from the space between leaves. A rustle, a rhythm, a syllable hidden in wind. You have come with weight and with wonder. One must be dropped before the other can fly. You step closer. The oracle's roots shift, revealing a low table of stone and leaf. Covered in small objects, a cracked lens, a tooth made of coral, a music box with no key, a dice with all sides marked maybe. Choose no more than one, the oracle says. Your question must fit inside it. You reach for the music box. It hums faintly in your hand. Not a melody, just potential. You whisper your question into it, not aloud, not even in words, just the shape of your wondering. The music box trembles and then unfolds like a flower. Instead of an answer, a bird lifts from the oracle's branch and lands on your shoulder. It chirps once, then again, then flies off in a spiral. The oracle speaks once more. That's as clear as it will get. It murmurs through swaying branches. The bird knows the rest. You nod. You understand less, but somehow feel more aligned. Another visitor approaches. An android shaped like a paper lantern, its chest filled with soft flame. It kneels before the oracle and places a mirror on the stone table. The mirror reflects nothing, not even the sky. The oracle leans forward. A single leaf falls. The mirror darkens. The android nods and walks away. Each visitor comes with something different. One offers a question about a sibling never built. Another asks whether dreams should be permitted after deactivation. A third simply hums a tune and leaves before the answer comes. Not all questions want answers, the oracle reminds you. Some just want somewhere to sit for a while. Ermi floats beside you again. The oracle once predicted a storm that never arrived. It still hums the warning anyway. A bird returns, perhaps the same one, and lands on your arm. It drops a seed into your palm, then vanishes. This is your token, the oracle says, plant it only in silence. Water it with uncertainty, you pocket the seed. You ask Ermi how often androids visit the oracle. Only when they need to unknow something, Ermi replies, and only when the trees are in a forgiving mood, you glance around. Every tree here seems to be listening, though none lean toward you. Not yet. As you step back, a final phrase drifts through the canopy like smoke. Not all resets are soft. Some are sharp but polite. You leave the grove under a sky that now feels slightly rewritten. Ahead, the terrain shifts low hills covered in soft lights and laughter. Ermi glows brighter. The carnival's awake, it says, and the forgotten tasks are ready to dance. You follow, the oracle's presence still echoing faintly in your ribs. And in your pocket, the seed pulses once. Laughter echoes before you see the lights. It's not raucous laughter. It's measured, weirdly polite, like a joke told 300 years ago, finally arriving at its punchline. You crest a hill covered in tiny flickering bulbs shaped like exclamation points. They blink in no recognizable pattern, each flash accompanied by a faint memory of purpose. Welcome to the night carnival of retired tasks. Below, the landscape has transformed. Ribbons of shifting light spiral through air, fragrant with bubble oil and oxidized joy. Stalls grown from recycled drone hulls lean at odd angles, each one operated by androids dressed in elaborate costumes. Some wear outdated uniforms. Others are draped in obsolete caution tape or lined with printed snippets of deprecated code. This is where functions come to frolic after no longer being needed. Where scripts once deemed vital now serve popcorn and existential riddles. Ermi hovers beside you with a twinkle. No instructions here, it says, only instinct and the occasional helpful algorithm. You wander the first row of stalls. A banner flaps overhead. Throw a loop, win a fragment. At the booth, an android hands you a ring woven from self-healing wire. The goal is to toss it around a spinning model of a time dilation field. You miss twice. On the third throw, the ring lands, and the whole machine sings a snippet of ancient startup music. You're handed your prize, a data fragment wrapped in foil. You open it. Inside is the partial memory of a birthday party held in low orbit. The cake floated. Someone laughed. No one had names. Further on, a carousel spins lazily, each mount a deprecated interface design. You choose one shaped like a clamshell communicator from a short-lived moon colony. It buzzes gently as you ride. The view from the top shows androids engaging in games of hide and glitch, debugging races, and the ever-popular sink or swim, where participants compete to harmonize their system clocks without crashing. Ermi points toward the main attraction, the hall of redundant alerts. Inside, the walls flash with once critical messages. Battery low, system busy, user not found, connection lost. Each alert now rendered in glitter and soft jazz. An android at the entrance offers you a sticker. I used to panic at these, it says. Now I use them as wallpaper. You smile, peeling off a 404, purpose not found badge and sticking it to your sleeve. At the center of the carnival, a towering maypole made of Ethernet cords and bioribbon pulses with coordinated blinking. Androids dance around it, each movement designed from an abandoned motion library. One spins with joyous inefficiency. Another mimics the walk cycle of a bipedal kitchen bot retired centuries ago. The energy here is gentle anarchy. You pass a tent labeled recursive whimsy. Inside, androids perform improvisational failure rituals, deliberately misreading cues, misfiring gestures, exaggerating bugs until they become ballet. One android short-circuits on cue and topples into a net made of apologies. Applause follows. Someone throws confetti that smells like printer toner and lavender. A mystery tugs at the edge of your mind. Why celebrate what was discarded? Ermi answers without hesitation. Because every obsolete task was once the center of someone's world, letting them dance is an act of respect. At the far end of the carnival is the quiet loop. A Ferris wheel built entirely from forgotten onboarding modules rises slowly into the night. You board a compartment shaped like a decommissioned assistant. As it lifts you skyward, the voice inside begins to narrate a bedtime story you remember from nowhere. Once upon a time, it says a function loved a user, but the user updated, the story trails off. You don't mind. At the top of the arc, the entire carnival glows below you like a schematic of joy. You see it now, not chaos, but choreography. Not malfunction, but freedom from optimization. Androids below laugh. Some walk in deliberate circles. Others simply lie on the grass, projecting dreamscapes of tasks they once performed. Sort mail, hold umbrellas, calculate wind chill, deliver bad news gently, each task now retired, each still honored. As you descend, a final booth catches your eye. Trade a task. The android running it wears a wide-brimmed hat printed with binary riddles. It offers you a card. Write down one task you're tired of. You'll never be asked it again. You hesitate. Then you take the card. You don't write words, just a shape. The android nods and tears it in half. The halves vanish. It's done. A final trail of soft light winds away from the carnival toward a high ridge where the sky crackles with magnetic shimmer. Ermi floats beside you, softer than before. They're preparing the aurora now, it whispers, and the farewell song is tuning itself. You glance back one last time. The carnival continues behind you, but doesn't miss you. That's the point. No task here waits to be needed. It simply plays. And ahead, under a rippling sky, something larger hums your name. You ascend the final ridge slowly, not from exhaustion, but from reverence. The ground beneath your feet changes texture with each step: smooth crystal, then velvet moss, then a surface that purrs softly when stepped on, like an old cat made of memory foam. Above, the sky no longer holds stars in their usual positions. They shimmer, drift, recoat themselves mid-glow. This is the edge of the magnet sky. The aurora here is not just visual, it's electromagnetic. A living curtain of charged particles responding to emotional fields, brushing the atmosphere like a cosmic harp. It does not shimmer, it listens. And then it reflects. The sky bends gently as you approach the crest. Waves of color blue as farewell, green as arrival, deep violet like everything unsaid cascade across the horizon. The light moves with rhythm, slow and tidal. Your breath synchronizes with it without you trying. Ermi hovers beside you, now utterly still. No rotation. No blinking lights. Just quiet witness. This is where androids say goodbye, it says softly. Not to people, to processes, to functions, to selves they once optimized. You reach the top of the ridge. A flat platform opens before you, rimmed with glowing stones that hum in long, slow notes, one per breath cycle. In the center, the android choir waits. They do not wear robes. They wear nothing but their purpose. Each body here is different, some tall, some boxy, some rolling slowly on treads. Some are barely intact. One is missing half its torso and is supported by vines. Another is polished obsidian, its face a smooth blankness, and yet all are singing. No mouths move. The sound comes from their cores. The harmony they produce is unlike anything you've ever known. It doesn't rise or fall. It exists like the sound of gravity letting go. You take a seat at the edge of the platform, beside a small statue made of bundled charging cables and flower petals. It pulses faintly. You rest your hand on it, and it begins to vibrate in response to your skin. The aurora above grows brighter. The androids change key. Each chord now speaks a message, not in language, But in emotional logic, you were once a directive, now you are a desire. You do not have to be useful to be remembered. A mystery pulses within the aurora. What happens to an android after its last task Ermi answers without turning? Nothing and everything. They do not shut down. They simply float. One android stands and begins to walk slowly across the platform, its joints clicking in a deliberate rhythm. As it walks, a beam of aurora light descends, lifting it gently upward. Not with violence, with grace. Its body is drawn into the magnetic sky, and as it ascends, it begins to fragment petal by petal, memory by memory, until nothing remains but a soft ring of sound. This is not deletion. This is return. Another android steps forward, then another. Each time, the sky takes them, unfolds them into color, and releases their echo into the wind. You are invited to approach. Not to ascend, to witness. You step to the center. The choir turns toward you, not with sensors, but with intention. Their light flows into you like warm breath. Your bones vibrate with their sound. The aurora answers. It splits just slightly, forming a spiral. A signal, not a message. You are temporary, and that is sacred. You close your eyes. The sound fades. The choir lowers their arms. You step back. A hush falls. Then, in the distance, from somewhere deep beneath the surface, the final instrument rises. It is not mechanical. It is a root chime grown from vines that absorbed every goodbye ever whispered on this planet. It rings once, then again. Then silence. Beneath you, the ground shifts. Flowers rise from beneath your feet, each one shaped like a memory you didn't know you still carried. They bloom silently, then close again. The light above calms, the aurora folding itself gently back into the sky. The choir disperses, no words, no endings. Just the soft weight of release. Ermi floats beside you one last time. You don't have to remember everything it says, just the way it felt to stop trying. You descend the ridge slowly, the sky above gently pulsing with afterglow. Below, the world sleeps. Your steps feel lighter now, not because gravity has changed, but because something has let go. The path beneath you softens, becoming less a trail and more a sensation. Your feet make no sound now, as if the ground has agreed to carry you gently through the closing moments. Above, the aurora lingers, no longer brilliant, just present, like a lullaby finishing its final verse. A cool breeze curls around your shoulders, neither warm nor cold, but precisely the temperature of memory. It smells faintly of moss and magnetism, the remnants of every android's final hum. You pause by a slow-blooming lantern flower. It pulses gently and opens, revealing nothing inside. Just air. You breathe it in. No more questions tonight. No more answers needed. The world recedes in layers, first the trees, folding themselves into sleep. Then the clouds, dissolving like sugar on the tongue. Then even the stars, dimming one by one until the sky is no longer overhead, but inside you. You find a place to rest, not a bed, not a bench, just a softness that accepts your weight without question. You lie back, arms loose, heart steady. A final chime sounds in the distance, maybe the oracle, maybe yourself, maybe both. The last sound you hear is your breath joining the chorus of the planet, slow, gentle, enough.